Hey guys, it's Dominic again with another one of your videos. Today is Sunday, April 30th, and wouldn't you believe that we're already at 150 days in the year of 2017? This year is going by incredibly quick. As you see outside, right here, look at all this green goodness right here. It's so intriguing. Can you see that right there? All the leaves are spread on the trees. Already in April, last year around this time, all those leaves were not spreading on those trees until like maybe that first or second week in May. So I thought I wanted to point that out to you because it really does seem like the year is going by so quickly. Now today, the reason why I'm making this video today is because I want to address something with all of you, and I feel like this is very important and it is true and dear to my heart. So I ask that you bear with me because this is very important information that I feel that is very important to those of you watching this. Whether or not this gets posted on Facebook or YouTube, I may have mentioned this a few times in the past, and some of my previous posts that I may have made on Facebook, something really important that I want to share with you. Today I'm going to focus on a topic that is vital to our everyday social life. As society puts it, you know, as I mentioned in the past, there are 7 billion people on this earth with different abilities, talents, skills, ideals, and how they choose to live life, the way that they go about doing things. And not everyone thinks the same thing. Everyone has their own view on things. Some people choose to have friends, some people choose to be laid back, some people choose to be to themselves. And I want to point this out to you, and I ask that you bear with me on here, but I'm going to read you a few things. You may have heard of me mention that there are a bunch of people out in society that are introverts. And the definition of an introvert, you know, it's kind of like an irrational definition, but it says here an introvert is a shy, recitant, I believe that's the word, if I'm pronouncing that right. Basically, an introvert is typically a self-centered person, a person predominantly concerned with their own thoughts and feelings rather than with external feelings. And I don't know if I agree with this dictionary because the way I look at an introvert is not only a shy person, but an introvert, as I mentioned a few times in my previous posts, to me, to my belief, is someone that is very laid back, someone that's very selective with time and energy. Introverts don't have a problem socializing and being around people. It's just that they're very selective with how much time or how many people that they spend around socializing and getting together. But it's basically a person that would rather just sit back and, you know, spend a lot of time alone. And an extrovert is an opposite of that. An extrovert, it is someone that likes to spend time with people, someone that's all about the party life, not really necessarily a party life, that's kind of like an irrational way to put it, but basically an extrovert, to my view, is someone that's all out there. They're thinking outside of the box. They're someone that likes to, you know, bring in the party. You know, it's all about that action, that energy, someone that's very high in energy. In an article that I'm reading right here, actually, her name is listed as Susan Cross Whitbourne. She's a PhD. Someone is a doctorate, I believe it is. And it lists here some of the benefits of being an introvert because there really is nothing wrong in particular with being an introvert. It lists actually some benefits here. I believe it's like 9 of them. And one of the things that it mentions is that someone, you know that you're an introvert when you enjoy having time to yourself, because when you have a chance to have a break, you rather spend time either reading, playing video games, or just listening to music, or in this case, in my case, it would be to spend time numerous times on my laptop. You may see me walk up and down the streets with my laptop, and coming to know myself, you know, I am someone that's kind of leaning towards that state because not that I don't enjoy having time or spending time with people. It's just an introvert. I believe that in my mind and my spirit, my heart, an introvert to my knowledge, they know exactly what they want and they rather not spend time around drama. To me, it's like the article here reads that the quiet time is important to your sense of well-being, even though there are plenty of times that you may enjoy social get-togethers. And the second belief is that, the second benefit is that your best thinking occurs when you're by yourself. You're not opposed to group meetings or discussions, but if you want to come up with a creative solution, you need some time to work. You need to solve the problem on your own. So basically what it mentions here is that you're not surrounded by folks that are putting the bug in your ear. They're not necessarily there to give you a hard time or to throw ideas. You're able to basically sit down and have some time to think for yourself. Also, another thing to point out about being an introvert is that when you're an introvert, if you are someone or some people out there that do struggle with this, the thing to look at an introvert is that they actually do have their own sense of independence. If you look at it in the positive aspect, because I think that they're able to make their own decisions and they're able to make their own choices, practicing precaution. And in my experience, a lot of times I do take myself on day trips because I am someone that likes to do adventures. Like I said earlier, I like to be around people, specifically friends, when they go out to go places. But it's different when you're by yourself, when you're going on a trip, or if you're doing something by yourself, because for some reason it allows you to expand your horizons. It gives you an opportunity to get to meet people and to sightsee and to visit other places that you've never been to before. So having that freedom to not have those little voices or people constantly getting on your back about things or pet peeves or things that you should or should not be doing. So again, you have your introverts, which are people that are very laid back and they're very conservative. They rather be to themselves. And then you have your extroverts, which is basically an outgoing and overly expressive person, someone that's all about the high, not the high, but basically is very outgoing, very, very energetic. They like to bring in the party, as I mentioned before. And then you have your ambiverts. Ambiverts are someone is like in between. So basically, an ambivert, if I can look it up real quick, an ambivert is basically someone that's in the middle of the spectrum of between the extrovert and an introvert. They're kind of in the middle. They're not really sure whether or not they're leaning towards an extrovert or if they're leaning towards the introvert spectrum. It's just a person that's in between that. And in this particular segment that I'm doing, I want to use a few examples of some of the people, especially television shows that you may or may not be familiar with. I grew up in the 90s, so there were a couple of TV shows that I watched. Some of you may or may not already know this. The Family Matters. Some of you should be familiar with The Family Matters. You have your character, Steve Urkel, the nerd with the glasses, and then you have all these other characters like the Winslow family, especially Laura Winslow. To me, she's someone that's like an extrovert. She's all out there. She thinks outside the box. And then you have the character Steve Urkel, he's a nerd. I wouldn't say for sure whether or not he is an introvert or an extrovert, but he's just someone that's very odd, someone that's very different. And you have Myra, which is supposedly Steve's girlfriend. She pretty much is into some of the things that Steve is in, so they both have a comparison trait. They both are into the same things, whereas Laura, to me, in my view, she'd rather not spend a lot of time with Steve because Steve is just into his own material. Like I said, he's deemed to be a nerd, and Laura is just all out there. And some of you may or may not disagree, but that's just my viewpoint. When I think back to the shows that I watched, this particular show came up, and I just use that as an example, not saying that it is or isn't true. Now, some of you may be thinking to yourselves, well, what is this whole point? Why is he making this video? I go on to say all of this because there has been a negative connotation about how people view introverts versus the extroverts. Some people look at introverts as someone that's very, very self-centered, someone that does not like people. They rather spend all their time alone. It's a negative connotation of how they look at folks that are introverts, some people look at it as very negative, very bad, because they look at that person as being lonely, but I don't agree with what some people view as a negative. Like I said, there's a negative connotation. Society has a standard of living, and we have to adhere to certain standards of living. Society places this whole belief that we need to have a social life, the whole status quo, getting into a relationship, marriages, sex, and all these things that are out in the world. And it's just a very irrational viewpoint. The way society places those expectations on us as humans, having that social life and all these different issues that are going on across the world. And I know it seems like I'm stumbling here, but I'm trying to get to the viewpoint of, to the point where people are understanding what I'm trying to say. For those of you watching this video, I need you all to understand and to look at it in this aspect. Not all introverts are bad. Some introverts, most introverts actually, they are sociable, they like to do things. They're not lonely, they're not bad people. They're just someone that's very different. They're just someone that chooses to live a different lifestyle. They don't always think outside the box, but nonetheless they are very smart people. They know how to make decisions. They are very selective with time and energy. They know how to consider their options. There's someone that knows how to evaluate themselves, and I use that expression to evaluate because introverts, they look deep within themselves. They look to see what it is that they truly want. And I believe that this is why sometimes it's good for those people to spend some time alone, because most people out there in the world, they look at being alone as someone that's, very not out there, and having that time alone, having that time by yourself, there's no noise, there's no music, there's nothing going around, there's no sirens going on, there's no drama, it's just a good place to have some time, especially early in life. You spend some alone time, get that quality time to get to know yourself, so that later on down the road, when you do know exactly what you want in life, you get to explore those options and be around people that share the same characteristics and the same traits as you. And this is not to say less about extroverts, because extroverts are really good people too. Extroverts, they know how to think outside the box. Extroverts are very energetic people. They like to party, they like to adventure, explore things, they like to take risks. There's someone that like to take risk. And I admire those people too. I admire those people that have that courage, because not many of us that are introverts or ambiverts, they don't always have that courage. And I admire the extroverts too. So if you are someone that's an extrovert, for those people watching this, know that you're not discredited, you're not bad people, you're still good people as well. You're very outgoing, and these are characteristics that I admire about you guys. All in all, what I'm saying to all of you guys, and the moral of the story, is basically having your own foundation, establishing your own foundation, because when it all boils down to it, it's basically knowing yourself and what you want, setting your own standards of living, and not living up to the standards of other people and other places and how society sees fit. I think for some of us that are in our 20s or in our 30s or in our 40s or any age group, doesn't matter the age group, it's really a matter of exploring yourself, knowing yourself, and establishing your own ground rules. When it all boils down to it, is knowing yourself and what you really like. Don't live up to the standards of other people and just trying to make that person happy. It's all about finding your own inner happiness. And this pretty much concludes my video for today. And I apologize for the way I'm sounding. I am coming down with some allergies. It is allergy season. You see out there that all these trees are blooming. So we're now falling into the summer months, which means more pollen, more tree dander, and I got a post-nasal drip, so I have to go see the doctor. So if I sound funny, please don't take that in any way. It's just, I am getting medications and stuff treated for this upcoming summer. Like I said, allergies are falling around, so if you are someone that's allergic to anything, be sure to have your remedies and get all your things set now before the summer months come.